So, you want a band program? Module 3, Time and Space. Sounds like something exciting from Doctor Who, doesn't it? Time and space. But it is a consideration we have to look at. My name's Murray Bishop. I've been guiding you through on a couple of modules about starting a band program, giving you some clues. We've looked at generating interest, expressions of interest, generating our resources. We've now got it all together. What do we do with it? Where do we put it? Most schools are pressed for space. So you're not generally going to get a dedicated band room in a public school particularly, but a lot of places don't have that facility. So you end up using the hall. The hall at the school, to me, is one of the worst rooms to teach in because kids are used to going there to have fun and make noise and all that sort of thing. You want them to be in a learning environment. It's also a hard fought for commodity because everyone wants to use it, especially on a rainy day. Everybody wants to use that hall. So you've really got to be careful about the space, etc., and what's there. You might be lucky and have storage room there, or you might be lucky and have someone that says you can have that room for that time. But it's always, just remember, it's a valuable resource. It's a hard fought for resource. So space, generally, in a high school, the music room's a good place to start, unless you're getting too big for it, because usually in the music room, you've got keyboards, you've got drums and things ready to go. But usually the hall's the place you go. So you end up with 20 little people in a massive, great room. It's hard to teach in there because it's echoey. It's usually got people sticking their face in at the start of the day just to see what's going on. There's always people doing that, which distracts the kids. So when you're setting up, think about access, think about where, you're not pointing out the door so that whenever a kid puts their face in, everyone sees them. And, oh, there's so-and-so, so all of a sudden that can distract it. I also firmly believe that if I want kids to respond positively, I want them to walk into a learning environment. Halls are not that environment unless you make them so. So you think if you're a classroom teacher, kids turn up at your door and you let them in, the desks are already there, the chairs are already there, you watch them, they walk in, they sit down. They face you, or they face the front, or whatever, and in a very short space of time, you're ready to start your lesson. Go to the hall, and kids will be running around, hiding in the toilet, and hiding behind the curtains, climbing the walls, because that's that big space, and there's room to do that, and it's not a classroom. The mentality just goes, it's not a classroom, I don't have to be in classroom rules. I always like to set the room up before kids get there. And I know that makes work, and we'll talk about that in support, which is the fourth module, but I actually don't like the routine of kids setting up the room unless they know what they're doing and they're responsible to do it. Generally, I believe, set the room up, it saves a lot of time, and usually time, as we'll talk shortly, is a valuable commodity again. But we get in, the room is set, and I have a set of rules. Your instrument case goes there. You pick your instrument up, you leave your bag, you leave everything over there except your music, and you come over and you sit in your place. It might sound draconian, but right from the word go, you've got control of that room. I'd also try moving the band around a little bit to get the best sound possible. If you're doing it before school, you don't want to have to be raising your voice all the time in an echoey room just to be heard. Not that you're yelling at the kids, but you just need to project so that they can hear you in that environment. And then you've got the rest of your school day you've got to teach as well. That's pretty hard on you. So again, in the after school bands too, kids are finished. They switch off at 3 o'clock. And then they're coming to you for a band practice where you're expecting to teach and learn. Maybe a little break in between works, but also having an expectation and work to that read the room is what they say. If the kids need that outlet of a little bit of fun, do it in a fun way. But again, they still come into a learning environment and a settled environment. It's a great way to get going. As for time, time is such a precious commodity. If you're a classroom teacher, you're under the pump all the time. If you're a contractor that's coming in, an external peripatetic teacher that's coming in, again, you're there for a limited amount of time. So you've got to make good use of it. And that's where I believe having the room set up saves you about 15 minutes of messing around. And, you know, your stands are the correct height. Everything is there. Kids just go in, bang, sit down, play. And it works really, really well for me. And that's just been my dogma for 40 years. Occasionally I'll have monitors, I'll have kids that'll come in and go, well, your job is to set the drum kit up, and you make that a privileged position and the kids will do it. We'll talk a little bit about that in support, which is the next module. But right now, where do you put your band? Most schools prefer before school or after school, and that's okay unless you've got regional kids that physically can't get home, particularly after school. The bus goes, that's their way of getting home. If that's the only way that's getting home, because mum and dad live out or work outside of town, that child is not going to join the band. Before school's usually easier because mum and dad usually can get them there once a week early and drop them off. The other times that people use recess, lunchtime, break 1, break 2, whatever you happen to have in your process. Again, these ones are fraught with difficulty because kids need that break. So, and they're usually limited time. So 40 minutes for lunch or half an hour for lunch is very common these days because they tend to make both breaks even. By the time you're set up, you've just started and you're finished. If you're doing it that way, like if you're on class and you're working on class, you can't sort of be off class and do it. Sometimes you might get RFF time, but that's eating up the time that you're supposed to use for other things. So it's very difficult to get those things happening, to get things going. And quite often you run into problem with other staff members. If they take you off duties to run these things, they like you to also do bus duty and all that sort of stuff as well. It's a difficult time to find that time. Once you've got that time, treasure it. Make it valuable. You've got the space, you've got the resources, you've got the excitement, you're building up everything to do it. Now, it's all valuable. Your time is valuable. The time that people give to you is valuable. The time that kids give to you is valuable. Treasure it, reward it, acknowledge it. That way your program is a much more positive, friendly, forward-moving pace. It's not a chore, it's a privilege. No one forces these kids to play an instrument. They're doing it because they want to. They're doing it because you acknowledge their abilities. Keep that up and you'll get right through. You'll have a loving, an absolutely growing, vibrant band. And so far we haven't played a note. It's all about the people. It's not about the notes they play. They come next. It's about them. It's about the people. It's about supporting, acknowledging, and being supported and acknowledged for your work. See you in Module 4. We'll talk about support a little bit more. But in the meantime, my emails again is coming up. And if you have questions, queries, or you just want to give me some feedback, always open to feedback. And if there's something you'd like me to video and put in, let me know. It's fantastic. Catch you in Module 4.